name is Ajitesh, and today I'm just providing a demo of SQL Server DBA. Now, come to about myself. I have around 11 years of experience, or professional experience of Microsoft SQL Server DBA. As an experienced SQL Server DBA with detail-oriented analytical troubleshooting, I'm working as a database analyst, and from last 5 years, I'm working with the financial domain. And troubleshooting experience includes SQL Server Database Administrator, data modeling, gathering, and analyzing business requirement and operating system. Having a solid working experience in managing large databases, backup, restore, configuring, and managing high-availability solutions. Managing report using SQL Server, like reporting services, SQL Server reporting services, monitoring, performance tuning, stored procedures, triggers, functions, and testing, and view, etc. Also, I have done the AZ104 certification, which is Azure Administrator Certification. Having an experience including Azure services like platform as services, infrastructure services, and migrating from premises data and legacy data to Azure. Deploy product on Azure, set up development, test environment for Azure. So this is about myself as a SQL Server DBA. Now come to the course content outline. After this completion of course content, I will tell you about the scope of the demo, what we are going to explain today. In the course outline, SQL Server is one of the RDBMS, as you know, that we have multiple kind of RDBMS, SQL Server and Oracle. SQL Server is one of them, which is a Microsoft product. And SQL Server is a secure and consistent platform for building data management system using server. You can run transactions faster and with enhanced performance with high ability. Additionally, in SQL Server, you can realize, integrate, and manage both unstructured and relational big data using big data cluster and data virtualizations. This is all we have the course outline. We have responsibilities as a database administrator, SQL Server database administrator. There are multiple types of DBAs as of now in the industry, right? If you are working on the infrastructure DBAs, we have application DBAs, we have line of business called LOB DBAs, okay, and we have app DBAs. So in this types of DBAs, we are working on different platforms, right? Sometimes you have to work on the installation part and patching part, right? You are responsible for the system databases, the installation and all the troubleshooting on the server level, right? Line of business is a kind of DBA where you have to work as a core DBA. You should know the input output the database. If any issues happen with the database, you know how to recover the database. That is what the LOB DBA. So we have multiple type of DBAs, in the industry, and talk about the history of SQL Server version. As I told you that Microsoft and Sybase released version 1.0 in 1989, and then, however, the partnership between these two ended in early 1990s. Microsoft maintained work ownership right to the name of SQL Server. Since 1990s, subsequent versions of SQL Server have been released, including SQL Server 2000, 2005, 2008. Then we had 2008 R2, R2 means Series 2, and then 2012, 2012 R2, then 2014 and 2016, 2017 and 2019 is the latest one which is going in the market. Okay, so we have multiple types of version as of now in the market, in SQL Server. Just go through again with a little bit information about the SQL Server. As I told you, it is a relational database management system developed by the Microsoft, okay, and which is the standard SQL, which is called the structured query language, which is using the T-SQL in SQL Server, okay. And whatever we have SQL Server Management Studio, SSMS, which we call in short, is a main interface tool of SQL Server where you are going to see your databases on the left side, and you have a query analyzer where you can execute the queries that you can check. Yeah. So this is what little bit about the introduction of SQL Server and history. I would like to tell you about the additions as well. So little bit, the short description of the addition. SQL Server editions, there are many types of edition in SQL Server. We have SQL Server Enterprise, we have SQL Server Standard, we have SQL Server Web, we have SQL Server Developer, and SQL Server Express. Right. So Express is, you can say, it's a sort of a small apps, small scale application and free to use. So we have Enterprise, like this. It's used in high-end, large-scale, and mission-critical business. It provides high-end security, advanced analyticals, machine learning. This is all we can use in SQL Server Enterprise. So as per the requirement of the customer, you need to suggest them for the SQL Server additions. So we'll describe everything in a proper way when we start the course. I'm just giving you the outline, like what we have. Right. So this is what we created the course outline. We'll start from the basic. You can see about the responsibility of database and history, difference between the enterprise standard, like what are the difference according to, if for example you're working on always on. So what will happen when you install always on as a standard edition and as an enterprise edition? What are the features you are going to use it? So everything I will include in this difference. The difference doesn't mean that I can explain you one line. I can explain you in the live environment when you're going to install edition and standard. So what suggestion you can give to the customer? That is the main point that we are going to discuss later on this topic. Okay. Apart from that, we have instance. As you know, we have two types of instance: default instance and named instance. Right. So named instance, like the application name, if you want to see, you can give the named instance. The naming is itself saying named instance, that you are giving the name. And default is like when you install SQL Server, it will, by default, it will give you the instance name. Right. Then we have the installation and configuration part. I can explain you how to install SQL Server, right, and how to configure it. What are the prerequisites before installing SQL Server on server, right? This is a very important part, right? So what are the questions you're going to ask to the customer, to the business holder when you're going to install SQL Server? That is the main point, right? So you need to go with the pre-checks and post-checks kind of things, right? So we can create to-do list of pre-checks and then we can create the post-checks. Then only we can understand how to install, right? So this is what the installation. I can explain you about the service pack installation on standalone server, cluster environment, and the always on in the high availability environment. Either it's in lock shipping, replication, mirroring, clustering, and always on, which is always on is the it's a hot topic as of now in the SQL Server that you should go and do the all practical things. Okay. Apart from that, if you go down, I have another course details about the configuration part, right? When you install SQL Server, right? When the installation is done, so what are the basic things that you need to go through the configuration? Configuration of various services, set up parameters, right? Configuration of data files and log file path, memory configuration and remote connections, right? Configuring network protocol and ports, configuring service and configuring default backup folder. So everything you should keep in mind that I said pre and post check that we are going to discuss now. Installation. Apart from that, we have this working with databases like system databases. What is the system databases? If any disaster happen on the system databases, how you are going to move the system databases, how you will handle a CAN-DB, right? So this is all we are going to discuss in this working database. Okay. Apart from that, then we have a database architecture, how the database architecture works internally. We have a page architecture and a lot of things we are going to discuss about the database architecture here. And then we have this course outline about the, as I told you, page architecture and the log file troubleshooting, everything I'm building this course. Okay. And the very important part is security. As you know, security is a very important part that you need to inform to the customer that, right, that your data is secure. So how you secure data, we are going to be working on the security enhancement. Okay. So this is what the security part. And like I told you, SQL Server authentication is all things we are going to cover up. And then backup and restore. This is the basic part of DBA, right? How you restore the backup, how you're going to migrate. So in the migration, whatever we are doing, as we are going to do any high availability like log shipping, mirroring, replication, everything starts with backup and restore. So we need to do a very practical things. Every topic, whatever we discuss, in every topic we are giving the scenario questions, interview questions, also the scenario-based question, which will help you to work in the production environment. Okay, we are totally working on production environment. We should know the ITL process as well. DBAs are very important to they are working on the production, they need to follow the organization process before executing anything on the production line. So we are going to work in that way as well. Okay. After that, if you can see, I included here the introduction of high availability and working with the log shipping. I include all the things like how to configure log shipping, how you can configure always on, what are the difference between these two, right? What are the disadvantages? What are the advantages if you go with the replication? What will happen if you suggest the log shipping? What will happen if you configure the always on? So these all the difference we are going to discuss. If you know the difference, then only you can suggest to the customer, right? We need to, as an analyst, as a database analyst, you have to think and you have to work that. Okay. Yeah. So here we have the cluster SQL Server, right? How the cluster works, how the active and active passive, active passive cluster works, right? On what situation you are going to, suggest to the clustering. Internally, how the architecture of clustering, everything I'm going to cover up here. Overview of Windows clustering, requirement, installation and configuration of SQL Server clustering, how to apply the service packet fixes, how to move the groups, everything internally, right? Adding node in the SQL Server failure cluster, troubleshooting the cluster issues. That is a very important part. Configuration is easy to learn, but when you understand, when the troubleshooting part comes, your knowledge how to configure it internally, how it works, everything will be covered. So we need to start with basic and then come with the troubleshooting part. I can give you a lot of scenario-based question on the troubleshooting cluster issues. You can work out to it later. And after that, the very important part is automation, right? Automation you can go through with maintenance plans, which is an inbuilt process in SQL Server. And maintenance plans you can configure through maintenance plans, or if you are good in T-SQL, you can execute in a SQL Server. You can create a script, own a script, create a job. I can explain you like what are the script you need to create and how to create script as well, the basics inside that right? Either you can go with the PowerShell as well, right? I can give you some little bit clue about the PowerShell, how to configure some basic automations through PowerShell as well. Okay. Then we have a mailing configuration. As you know, from the database itself, you can send an email to the company, organization, or the team lead or the manager that your backup is completed. For example, I'm giving you if disk is running out of space, so you can just configure all the things to database mail configuration. So this is also we are going to discuss about the how the server mail transfer protocol works internally. Okay. Then we have this implementing of SQL Server agent, how to create the operators, alerts, and job in SQL Server, how to manage the jobs, how to resolving the errors, what are the ways to check the error. We have multiple ways to check the error. Everything we are going to configure, going to this implementing and automation part. And then we have an advanced administration concept like indexes. Performance tuning is one of the very, very important part where every time 90% people will complain you that my application is running slow, my query is running slow. How to improve that application? How to improve the queries which is running from the application? As you know, every database having one application, right? Database is there, it means some application would be attached with the database. So what are the things that we are going to cover on the performance part? So I have mentioned here the database index understanding, checking database defragmentation and maintenance, database health checkup, right? Understanding SQL Server Profiler, we are creating and running traces, understanding about the X events. So X and events is one of the important part, which is introduced by Microsoft in SQL Server 2008 Enterprise Edition. Now you can get in all the versions in SQL Server. So we can, whatever we are doing through Profiler, we are going to do with external event. It's an enhancement of the Profiler. Okay, creating and configuring the external events. This all, either for example, of the deadlocks, blocking, long running queries, everything we are going to schedule with X events. Okay. So this is what the advanced administration concept of. Then come to some course outline here in the modern tool. We have system monitor, SQL Server Profiler, as I told, database engine tuning advisor. So this is inbuilt database engine tuning advisor, which will advise you that what you improve in SQL Server query or what you improve in the infrastructure. So we can go through this as well, but I can suggest you that better we can understand when we are if something is internally what database is consuming, that we can go with the manual process as well, which will give you more information instead of these tools. Okay. Then we have dynamic management views, DMVs, to give you the all information in SQL Server, right? Anything you want to check, fragmentation, any sessions is running long, any weight types, everything you can check with running event. Then I just mentioned here SQL Server admin to error logs, troubleshooting logs, how to troubleshoot the logs. Log, deadlock, and blocking are the main important part of SQL Server when we are doing the performance tuning that we are going to cover here. We have physical server performance, connectivity to SQL Server, and also we can discuss how the application is going to connect to SQL Server. What are the ways you can connect application to SQL Server that we are going to discuss about the connectivity to SQL Server. Also, we can discuss a little about the networking part, okay, which is very important while we are doing the troubleshooting to check the connectivity between SQL Server and the application. Okay, so this is all the database performance things that we are going to cover up, including the isolation. So this is what course outline of SQL Server Database Administrator. And then we can go through this all projects little bit. We can create some project like bookstore inventory. As I told you, in SQL Server we have two type of transaction. We have OLTP and OLAP, online transaction processing and online transaction analytical processing. Okay, so analysis processing. So in OLTP environment, like we have ATM applications, bank, where millions of second transactions will happen. Right. So we can discuss about the OLTP project and OLAP project. So I designed like this. We have multiple projects in this course content. I mentioned the bookstore inventory management, how it works, the customer order management, how it is work. Okay, and you can say any kind of bank. If you go to bank, how the banking, bank database display in the bank every time that transactions are going in SQL Server. So in bank, when that kind of criticality is there, so how we are going to tackle this the database, how we can recover the database, right? If my transaction is in OLTP environment, right? So that is what we are going to discuss in multiple projects. We can create some scenarios to explain you. Okay, and every topic which we discuss as of now, in every topic I can create a scenario-based questions, and you will get the kind of scenario work like you have to work at home on every topic, which will be I thinking more suitable for you. Okay, now come to the next part here. One second. Now, just would like to go through this SQL Server scope of demo as just we'll discuss about the SQL Server architecture, how the SQL Server architecture in SQL, how it is work. So we just go through this information so that you will understand like how the SQL Server query works internally. Okay. So SQL Server architecture is like you can say SQL Server is a client server architecture. Okay, and MS SQL Server process start with the client and application sending the request. So how it will work, I have a diagram for you to explain this. It will be a much better little bit for you to explain the things. So if you see my diagram now, it's a SQL Server architecture of SQL Server. You can say it's a query processing architecture. So whenever you're going to execute anything, for example, if you see here, if you're going to execute any select statement, right, and you're getting the data below, so how you will get the data, this one, that we are going to discuss in this SQL Server process architecture, right? So if you see the diagram, before going ahead, I'll like to tell you that SQL Server process starts with the client application sending a request, okay? That sending a request to the client, okay? And SQL Server accept and process and replies to the request with the processing data, okay? Now just see the diagram. This diagram divides in three major components, if you can see here. One is a protocol layer. This is the protocol layer. Let me just open the pen. Yeah, this is the protocol layer, first component. Second is relation engine. If you can see, this is the relation engine. Okay, and the third one is you can see a storage engine. This is the storage engine. So SQL Server divide in basically in three components: protocol layer, relation engine, and storage engine. Right? And apart from this, we have major three modules, which in protocol layer, if you go, we have protocol layer SNI, and in this we have shared memory, we have TCP/IP, we have named pipe, and we have these three things we need to remember always. Okay, so we have shared memory, we have TCP/IP, and we have a named pipe, right? Where we can see these all the things. If you go to the SQL Server Configuration Manager, you can type SQL Server configuration SQL Server Manager 13.msc. This is a short form to the way to reach to configuration manager. If you go here, I just remove this first of all, the diagram is all diagrams from here, and you can see here to go to the protocol network configuration. This is my protocol layer, shared memory, named pipe, and TCP. We'll discuss how it works. I'm just explaining you as of now the protocol things. The three types of protocol, remember: shared memory, named pipe, and we have a TCP. Okay, let's start discuss about this protocol layer first of all. Right, as I told you, the MS SQL protocol layer supports three type of client server architecture, and we will start with first three types of client server architecture which supports SQL Server. Let's discuss about the shared memory. What is shared memory? Shared memory. Let's consider early in the morning. Your conversation scenario will discuss something about it. Okay, you woke up in the morning at 9 o'clock. Okay, and you called your mom. Mom, I need a cup of coffee. Right? You are at home, and your mom said, "Sure, preparing and we'll serve you in 10 minutes." Right? So, mom and you both are the same logical place at their home. Right? So you was asking, you was able to ask for coffee, and mom was able to serve you the hot coffee in 10 minutes because you're in the same place. Same concept here. MS SQL, here MS SQL provides shared memory protocol. So what do you mean by shared? Here your client and MS SQL server run on the same machine. Okay, that is what the shared memory. Both can communicate via shared memory protocol. If your client and your SQL Server both on the same machine. That is the meaning of shared memory. Okay. Now come to the TCP/IP. TCP/IP. Now consider, just take an example. Consider in TCP/IP. Consider in the evening you are in the party mood and you want to go for a coffee. You want to order a coffee from a well-known coffee shop. Okay. The coffee shop is located 10 kilometers away from your home. It's 10 kilometers away from your home. Then in that case, what you will do? You and the coffee shop. The coffee shop name might be the Starbucks in a different physical location, as you said. Okay. So you at home and Starbucks at somewhere in 10 kilometers away, it's in the busy marketplace somewhere. So now they are communicating via cellular network, right? When you want to order it, either you can go with some kind of call or you can book by the Swiggy. So the request will go to their first of all it will go to the Swiggy, for example, and then it will deliver one agent to that Starbucks shop, and then they will call you. So this is all happen on the network level, cellular network level, right? Same thing here in SQL Server. That's what I mean to say. They are communicating via cellular network. Similarly, MS SQL Server provide the capability to interact via TCP/IP protocol. Okay, here your client and your MS SQL are remote to each other and installed on a separate machine. That is what the meaning of TCP. Okay, come to the next point. The next topic would be your named pipe. Okay, we will discuss more on to it when we are going to start a little bit more connecting the SQL Server. Then I can explain you practically what exactly the shared memory and named pipe. But this is what the scenario I was telling about the shared memory and named pipe. Now come to the named pipe. Okay, named pipe. What named pipe means? These are the very important protocol. On these three protocols, your SQL Server connectivity will happen. Okay, so named pipe is like, now finally you just say and create one more example. Say at night you wanted to have a light green tea. Okay, which is might your friend is preparing very well, right? So you and your neighbor both are in the same physical location, and being each other on the neighbor, they are communicating via internet network. You call him. If you see in the societies, we have intercom, right? So we can talk in the intercom instead of we're talking on the cellular phones. And if you want to call to your guard, right, which is sitting, the security guard, which is sitting on the near the gate, right? So you can call to that guy by intercom. So now how you're communicating with each other? You're communicating with the intra network. Similarly, in the same SQL Server provide the capability to interact via the named pipe protocol. So here your client and SQL Server are in the connection via local area network, which is called LAN, right? So these three protocols you need to keep in mind whenever you are working with the customer. What is where the SQL Server is installed, where your the application is installed. Okay, these all the things you need to keep in mind and need to enable these protocols. Okay, these protocol again I'm saying we have to go to SQL Server Application Manager, and then this is I have a two instance in my SQL Server. So, but this is a default instance. You can see both are all are enabled. Second thing, if you want to disable or enable, you need to restart your SQL services. We have many others, of SQL Server. In SQL Server, we have SQL Server components. Okay, so just if you want, I'll go through this component of SQL Server. There are key components and SQL Server server. Okay, so this key component means whenever you install SQL Server, we have a database engine, right? That this component handles the storage, rapid transaction processing, and security data. That is what the engine is, right? And then we have a SQL Server. Okay, this service starts, pause, continue, and instead of MicroSQL Server, an executive name in SQL Server.exe. This is placed in C drive program files in a bin folder. I'll show you where you will get this exe. Okay, so SQL, whenever you install SQL Server, these services will be installed by default. SQL Server, SQL Server Agent, SQL Server Browser, SQL Server Text Search, SQL Server VSS Writer, SQL Server Analysis Services, Reporting Services, and Integration Services. So these are all components, key components, and services of SQL Server. Whenever you install these SQL Server, these services should be by default installed. Now again, I'm not saying by default all services, it's up to your requirement. If you're not choosing the feature reporting service, that feature will not be installed. So what are the features you're going to install? Because you have a privileges to, as per the customer requirement, you can install the features in SQL Server and you can take this kind of services. Okay, so you can start and stop the services. Okay, so second thing, these services will be placed here. If you go to services.msc, you can go here and type S, you will see these are all my services. So I have, as I told you, I have two instances, default and named instance. So everything you can see all the kind of services here. Okay, this is what the services is. So I can see the service here. Now go back to the demo. So this is what the first part in the scope of demo that we have, if you see the diagram, we have protocol layer, right? We have three layers, protocol, relation engine, and storage. So just about the protocol layer, right? Now, if you see my screen here, open the diagram first of all, this one. So if you see my screen here, you can see the TDS. I will just discuss about the part, the components which you're able to see. Then we'll discuss how the query is going in a relation engine, and then it comes to the storage engine and you get the data. Okay. So TDS. TDS is one of the, again, a very important thing, right? We know that three types of client server architecture. So TDS stand for tabular data stream. I will just have a right there, at least you can understand what exactly means. Okay, so this is a tabular data stream. Okay, so this tabular data stream, okay, is encapsulated in a network packets. Okay, this enable, what exactly the function of this? This enables data transfer from the client machine to the server machine. That is what the meaning of TDS, tabular data stream. This TDS was first developed by Sybase and later it owned by the Microsoft. Okay, internally TDS, what it will do? You need to keep in mind this enable the data transfer from client machine to server machine. That is what the TDS is. Okay, that is what. Now come to the relation engine, the third component which I discussed with you, relation engine. So relation engine is also known as a query processor, as I told you, a query processing architecture, you can say. So it has it's a SQL Server component that determine what exactly a query need to do, right? That is what we're determining by the relationship and how it can done best, right? That the way of is SQL Server relation engine. I'm sorry. It is also responsible for execution of user queries by requesting data from the storage engine and processing the results that they are returned. That is what internally when you execute a SQL Server query, right, it will go through TDS and it will go to the first protocol layer. From the protocol layer, it will create a language event and go to the command parser. From the command parser, they will make a query tree and go to the optimizer. Optimizer will first find out the best execution plan and provide you the query plan. That is what the query executor is. Then query executor provide the same query with the protocol layer, and through TDS, it will encrypt it and send it to the client. That is what the relation engine is doing. But what happened internally? What this language event? What is command parser? What is a query tree? What happened in the optimizer? What is the query executor? That we are going to discuss one by one properly. Okay. So now let's go with the command parser. What command parser is? So once the data received from the protocol layer, okay, is then passed to the relation engine. Command parser is one of the first component, you can say, of relation engine to receive the query data. The principle of this command parser is to check the query is syntactic or semantic error. I will write down so that you can understood the meaning of that when I will go to work on the practical way that what is the meaning of syntactic and semantic error. You can say syntactic, semantic error. There are two types. Okay. So finally, generate a query tree. Okay. And now I will discuss, let you know like what the meaning of this syntactic and semantic tree. So there are three steps you can say in command parser. It will check syntactic error, then semantic error, and third is a query tree. Okay. So let's go with the syntactic error first of all. What do you mean by syntactic means, right? Like we have other program language, MS SQL Server also have a predefined set of keywords in SQL Server. Okay. SQL Server has its own grammar. What we discuss, we speak in English, we speak in Hindi. SQL Server speaks only in T-SQL. They have a own language. You can talk with SQL Server in SQL, in structured query language only. He can't understand English, Telugu, and other languages. So we need to think about whenever you're writing anything query on SQL Server, right? So, right. So select, update, insert, as we normally knows about, and many others belonging to SQL Server predefined keyword list in SQL Server. So command parser does the syntactic check, right? If user input does not follow this language, syntax or grammar rules, then you will return the error, an error. Right now, just I'm going to give you an example of synthetic check. You will more understand about it. Let's say you went to you are, for example, just think we are Indians and we went to the Japanese restaurant. Okay. And you ordered a fast food in you can say in Hindi, in your language might be, whatever language you have. Unfortunately, the waiter will not understand what you said. So what would be the best obvious result? The answer you will get from the waiter is unable to process the order for them because he don't know. Which you asked in Hindi and that guy is Japanese. He don't know English also. He didn't understand what you ordered. So what will happen? The waiter is unable to process the order for you. That is what the same thing in SQL Server. There should not be any deviation in the grammar or language which SQL Server accept. If there are, SQL Server cannot process it and it will give you the error. Now let's say we'll go to the SQL Server now. Now let's say I will execute one query here. Just I'll find out some database. Okay. So this is my database. If you see the left side, this is the database, this is the instance. So when, for example, if I disconnect here from, you go to the connect database engine, and this is the instance name. If you're not sure about the instance, go to the browser for more and just expand this and just connect it. I have two instances, as I told you. I'm connecting the default instance and just connect it. Once you connect it, you will see here databases, security, server objects, application, polybase, always on high-availability, management, integration services, agent, and accident profiler. You can just expand the database, you will get all the databases. You can see in this, there is a sign here in the black color. This seems is a user database. And these are my system databases. Whenever I install a SQL Server, okay, internally we have 5 system databases. We have master, we have model, we have MSDB, we have TempDB, and we have resource DB, which is a hidden database. This is a distribution database. Whenever you configure a replication, then the distribution database is created as per the configuration which you have done. So we'll discuss about the replication later. That's the reason I didn't include this distribution server as database. Okay, so this is what a system database is. So this is my database. I will connect this database, go to the tables. I'll just drag this table here, and I'm going to write a select statement here. Select star from table name. Here you can see a database list, right? So these are my database lists. Either I can select the database from here, or either you can use database name. There are multiple ways to do it. Either you can do it this way, right? So use database, and then I come to select the select star from table name, and I'm going to execute it. So when I'm executing, I'm getting the data here. Okay, this is what I am, as of now, I am getting the data. Let's consider, okay, how internally when you execute it. Now, just for example, if I mention here select statement, if I mention here select, I just forget T, what will happen when I execute this query now? You see here, incorrect syntax near select, because SQL Server don't know about this SELEC. SQL Server know about this select. Okay, so these are predefined grammar keywords in SQL Server, which we need to keep in mind. That is what the meaning of syntax error. Now come to the semantic part, right? What is the meaning of semantic? What do you think about semantic? Okay, semantic is simple, whether it check the column name, table name, being query exists or not, right? So if you see here, if I'm going to use this, this is the parse button. You can see a parse, right? So as we just now discussed about the syntax error, if I remove T and if I execute this and just going to parse the key, what will happen? I'm getting error, incorrect syntax error. Now, just think this is my human resources department table, which is, it's there in the database. If I remove this like this, what will happen? And I put here select statement. But when I'm going to execute this command parser, it will see, you can get here error here. Okay, let me just put in that way again to show you. Okay, so now it will check whether my tables. So that is what the semantic check is. Semantic check will check whether my column, my table name being exists or not in the schema. If it is not exist, then bind it to query, and this is known as a binding. Okay, it is known as a binding. So that is what the meaning of you can say kind of checks which is doing by command parser before executing any query in SQL Server. Okay, this is the first part. So after that, we have a query tree, as you see in the diagram. We have the next part is we have a query tree. What do you mean by this query tree? Okay, so query tree is this step. This generate first of all this execution plan. That is what the meaning of query tree. It generate the execution plan, execution tree, you can say, not plan, execution tree, not plan, I'm sorry, execution tree in which the query can be run. And it will provide to the optimizer. That is whatever the query you are sending, it make a tree and it step to different execution trees in which the query can be run. It might be, no, the different kind of query. The result would be same, but it will provide them some kind of good costing query to the optimizer. Then optimizer, the work of optimizer is to create an execution plan for the user's query. And this is the plan that will determine how the user query will be executed. That is done by the optimizer. One important part is, very, very important part. All the queries are not optimized. Just one thing I would like to clear. All the queries are not optimized. Optimization is done only for the DML statements. Data, you can say a manipulation language, data modification language, whatever. Okay, command like you have an insert, update, delete, that is what a DML statement is. Okay, so optimizer is done only for the DML statement. The queries, such queries are first marked, then send it to the optimizer. Okay, and then it will optimize and provide to the query generator. DDL commands, like for example, data definition language like create, alter, are not optimized, but they are instead compiled into an internal form. The query cost is calculated. How the query cost is calculated? The query cost is calculated based on your CPU usage, your memory, your input, output, IO needs, everything. Right? So on the basis of that one, optimizer will provide the best query to the query executor. Right? So what optimizer role is? Optimizer role is to find the cheapest, not the best, cost-effective execution plan. That is what the optimizer is doing. Right? So let's again discuss about one example that will clear you more about the optimizer is. Let's say you want to open a bank account, online bank account, okay, and you already know about one bank which takes a maximum 2 days to open an account, okay. But you have list of 20 other banks as well, right? Which may or may not open, the bank account, online bank account in less than 2 days, but you want to open in 2 days. What you did, you first engage these banks to determine which bank takes less than 2 days. Now you find out a bank which takes less than 2 days. But what will happen now? There is an additional time lost due to the search activity which you did. You call to your friends and discuss until unless you take 2 days gone. And third day you feel like I really wasted my time. Right? So it would be better if you can open an account, okay, at a time that someone suggested you the first time, bank itself. Right? So what is the conclusion here? Conclusion is it is more important to select wisely to precious. So choose which option is best, not the cheapest. That is what the optimizer is doing in SQL Server. Okay. So that is what in optimizer. Okay, we have in optimizer works in inbuilt, existing, and heuristics of in the algorithm. Okay, and the goal of this optimizer is to minimize the runtime, query runtime. That is what the optimizer query runtime. Okay, so optimizer algorithms are created by Microsoft, and these are all secret. Nobody know about what internal optimizer is doing, right? And there are some high-level steps internally how the optimizer search is doing. Search of optimizer in the optimizer they have different kind of phases: phase 0, phase 1, phase 2. In that way, we are going to do optimization internally. Okay, that I can just give you the clue about the optimization. They will go with pre-optimization stage, and then they will go for the simple and complex plan. Then it will go for the parallel processing and optimization. Third step internally in a query in the optimizer. Now the next part you can see the query generator, right? So query generator call to the access method. Okay, it provide access method means you can see that below. We'll discuss more onto it one by one. Access method. Okay, so this access method it provide. So now about the query generator, query executor we are discussing as of now. So query executor is called to the access method. Okay, so it provide an execution plan for data fetching logic required for execution. Once the data is received from the storage engine, the result get published to the protocol layer, as I told you. Okay, and finally data is sent to the end user. That is how the query works. This is called your relation engine explanation. Okay. Once the relation engine explanation completed, we'll go to the storage engine. Okay. That is what the storage engine. We have different components storage engine. We'll discuss later upon. Okay. So this is like one kind of demo I would like to give you about the query server architecture. We have a lot of things internally. I just would like to give the demo that how internally a SQL architecture, query processing architecture works. Okay. Then, apart from that, we'll go to the now the demo. Yeah. And as I told you that we have some kind of projects that we are going to cover up at the end, right, when the course completed. So these are the basic things like you need to download SQL 16 software, right, which is very important. Okay, because we're going to start the installation part. You just download it, don't install it. And then once you download, we'll go and explain you how to install SQL Server 16. Okay. And this is one thing. And apart from that, we'll provide you all documents, whatever documents you require. Each and every document, I prepare everything in a proper way and with explanation and with the proper diagram. So that you can, once you go through for the interview, just open the document, you can see everything in a proper way and questions and answers as well. And especially the scripts that will help you for your future perspective when you're going for any troubleshooting part. That scripts are ready made. I already created in from last 12 years. Whatever the scripts I made, I will definitely share with you. And the important part is interview part of questions, how we can answer the questions, right? What is the main thing we need to ask? We need to answer it. Like I just mentioned, 5 questions here. Like what about the database consistency check? What is blocking? What are the best way to deal with it? So these are the basic questions that every time as a fresher, when you entered in a SQL word, these questions will definitely come to you, and they're asking you, and they will ask you more things internally in the business. Right. So we'll discuss about the questions because our main thing is to crack the interview, right? That we are going to discuss in the interview part, right? We have certifications of SQL Server. As I told you, the MCSA SQL Server retired on 31st of January 2021 because everything is moved to Azure Cloud now, right? We have all SQL Azure Cloud, right? Where you can get all the information. Better, I can suggest you that go with the Azure certifications once you complete the SQL course. You are capable to work on the SQL platform as a database administrator, and then you're capable to go with the Azure cloud if you are planning to go with the certification from SQL to SQL Azure, right? This is one path I'm telling you. So as I completed AZ104 administrative part, but SQL Server knowledge is very important if you want to jump on the cloud level. That's what I'm thinking, and you are going to work on the SQL part. This is what the course completion certification by MindMajix, the MindMajix they will provide you after completion of SQL Server, right? And this is all about the demo. And thank you so much for attending the demo. This is just for the demo. I have given you the SQL Server architecture, some basic things, right, about the relation engine. Storage engine is still pending. We'll go and slowly understand that in the next demo. We'll describe about the storage engine and other components, right? And practically, when you execute the query, what the things you need to keep in mind, and the prerequisites before executing the SQL Server, execution of scripts. Okay, so this is all the demo, and please share your feedbacks and contact us if you have any query. Right, this is our email ID and this is our number for India and US. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a good day. Take care. Bye.